Here's an uncomfortable truth about phishing. The people who fall for it are often smart, busy, and trying to get work done, not gullible, just operating on the same autopilot that keeps modern businesses moving. Phishing is when someone pretends to be a trusted person or service to get a reaction, like a click, a login, a payment, or a data share. It feels like normal work. That's the trick. The message shows up looking like routine business, a password reset, an invoice, a shipping notice, a request from the boss. The special thing about phishing isn't technical wizardry. It's that attackers don't break in like cat burglars. They get invited in by blending into the workflow. Why care? Because this is where real loss happens. Payroll rerouted, vendor wires diverted, accounts taken over, ransomware deployed, reputations bruised. The numbers add up fast, and the damage spreads quietly through calendars, shared drives, and cloud accounts. Think of it like a forged but believable paper memo slipped into an office in-tray. It uses the right letterhead, the right tone, and it arrives at the right moment, so someone stamps it approved without double-checking who actually wrote it. That's phishing in a mental picture. It copies the familiar cues, inserts itself into an existing process, and leans on time pressure so the reflex wins over the double-check. So let's slow that down for a second. The memo analogy highlights three realities. First, attackers copy formats people already trust. Second, they hijack workflows already in motion. Third, they push for speed, because speed suppresses scrutiny. That's why even experienced professionals get caught, because the message doesn't feel like a scam. It feels like Tuesday. With that in mind, it helps to see phishing as a playbook rather than a random email. There's a rhythm to it. It starts with learning who talks to whom and about what. Attackers study LinkedIn, company websites, old breach dumps, and public press releases to map out routines and relationships. Job titles reveal who approves invoices. Press releases reveal which tools teams use. A little research gives them the right vocabulary and timing. What matters here is context. A "please sign this DocuSign" email works best on a team that actually uses DocuSign. A message about vendor banking details lands better when a vendor change is already underway. The better the background, the more everything feels normal. Next comes impersonation setup. The email address and website are the costume. Sometimes that means registering a domain that looks very close to the real one, like swapping a lowercase l with a capital I. Sometimes it means compromising a real mailbox, which is even stronger because messages come from the correct address and arrive within existing threads. Attackers also clone login pages and cloud-sharing portals so the colors, logos, and layout match the genuine brand. People don't scan pixels, they scan for familiarity. A sender name that matches a colleague, a logo that looks right, a sign-in page that behaves like the real thing. Under time pressure, the brain often gives a pass. Then comes the bait message. It's usually not dramatic. It mirrors routine work. Password resets, shared documents, invoices, HR notices. To nudge the reaction, it adds a psychological shove. Urgency, authority, or fear. Respond in 15 minutes. From the CFO. Your account will be locked. The link or attachment or phone number carries the payload. Click, reply, call. Any one of these can bridge into compromise. The simple version is, the goal is to push a familiar button. The less it feels like a new decision, the more likely it works. If the victim interacts, the attacker converts attention into access. A fake login page collects credentials. An attachment drops malware. A phone number routes to a convincing operator who asks for a one-time code. There's also a modern maneuver nicknamed MFA fatigue. When a password is already stolen, the attacker triggers repeated approval prompts until a weary user taps approve just to stop the buzzing. This is the bridge where social engineering feeds into technical compromise. Stolen passwords turn into account access. Captured MFA codes or approvals neutralize the extra safety net. Malware opens a wider door where the email was only the knock. Once inside, the attacker stops pretending and starts behaving like the account owner. Email, cloud storage, chat history. These are treasure maps. Search terms reveal payment processes, vendor relationships, and who can approve what. It's common to quietly add mailbox rules to forward certain messages, register a new multi-factor device, or reply within ongoing threads. That last one is especially effective because replies from a real account carry all the right context. Here's an understated insight. Once a mailbox is compromised, every legitimate signal becomes a camouflage. Thread history, signatures, tone, All the authenticity that builds trust now works for the attacker. Monetization and persistence follow. That could mean diverting a wire, changing payroll details, selling stolen data, or later deploying ransomware. Persistence might be as simple as a hidden forwarding rule or a new access token, so logging out or changing a password doesn't end the story. Put differently, the initial phish is the start of a process, not the finish line, and there's a feedback loop. Attackers measure what gets clicks and refine subject lines, domains, and templates. Phishing kits bundle cloned sites, dashboards, and automation so even modestly skilled operators can run large campaigns. It's an adaptive adversary, not a one-off blast. So why do careful, security-aware people still fall for this? Because the messages are threaded into real workflows and arrive when cognitive load is high. People are multitasking, reading on phones, moving from meeting to meeting. Under those conditions, the brain looks for cues that say routine rather than investigate. That's not a mistake. It's how busy environments stay efficient. A concrete example makes this vivid. Imagine a mid-sized company with a few hundred employees on Microsoft 365 and an external payroll provider. An attacker scrapes LinkedIn and company pages to find a finance manager named Alice and learns the organization's tech stack from job postings. A lookalike domain is registered and used to send a cleanly branded Microsoft 365 session-timed-out message to a few hundred employees. A small percentage click. A couple enter credentials on a cloned login page. The attacker tries those credentials and starts spamming push-based MFA prompts. Alice, on a busy afternoon, approves one, assuming it's a sync glitch. Now the attacker has Alice's mailbox. A quick search for wire, invoice, and payroll reveals an active thread with the payroll provider. A reply in thread from Alice's real address asks to update direct deposit instructions for executives. The attachment looks like previous forms but routes funds to attacker-controlled accounts. Because it arrives in an existing conversation from the correct mailbox, the provider processes it. 10 executives at $15,000 each is $150,000 redirected in a single cycle before someone notices. Meanwhile, a hidden rule forwards any emails containing password or MFA to an external address, and two more, document for review messages, go out from Alice's account to other leaders to widen access. Let that land. This wasn't a flashy hack. It was a believable message, a rushed approval, and then everything else fell into place because the workflows were designed for speed, not verification. This style of attack has a name that shows up in many incident reports: business email compromise. It's not about bad grammar or fake logos. It's about using a real account to request real actions that fit the existing pattern. Cosmetic telltales are scarce. That's why older advice like look for typos isn't enough anymore. There are technical defenses in the background, protocols like SPF, DKIM, and DMARC that help verify whether a message came from a server allowed by a domain and whether it was altered in transit. These signals reduce obvious spoofing at scale. Email gateways quarantine a lot of commodity attacks. Browser and endpoint protections block known bad links and files. These layers matter. They also have blind spots. A message sent from a compromised real account will pass authentication. A convincing lookalike domain can still be created. A file hosted on a legitimate cloud service often appears clean to filters. Here's the key idea. Email authentication proves origin, not intent. That's a subtle but important limitation in how internet mail was designed. Multi-factor authentication is another major defense. It raises the cost of compromise by requiring something beyond a password. But the flavor of MFA matters. Push-based approvals and one-time codes can still be social engineered. There are real-time phishing proxies that sit between a user and the real site, relaying traffic so the site looks genuine while the attacker captures session tokens. Hardware-backed methods like security keys resist those man-in-the-middle tricks because the cryptographic exchange checks the real website address before it approves the login. What protects best in practice is not a single control. It's a layered approach that assumes some clicks will happen. On the human side, a few habits change the odds. Slow down any request that combines urgency with a change to money or access, especially if email is the only approval path. When in doubt, verify through a separate known good channel. Use a bookmarked portal or a phone number from a directory, not the number in the email. Treat repeated, unexplained MFA prompts as a warning, not a glitch. On the workflow side, small process changes increase friction where it matters. Dual approval for new vendor banking details, out-of-band confirmation for payroll changes, policies that say no wires based solely on email. For shared document requests, encourage opening the service from a bookmark or typing the address rather than following links. For executives and finance teams, alerting on first-time requests involving money from external senders can surface problems early. On the technical side, there's value in hardening the environment with the assumption that some messages slip through. Strong email authentication policies, modern gateways with impersonation detection, and link protection help reduce noise. Phishing-resistant MFA, particularly security keys, limits damage from credential theft. Conditional access that looks at device health and location adds another check. Session controls that reduce token lifespans limit the window for token theft. Good logging and alerting catch unusual behavior like new inbox rules, impossible travel, or suspicious OAuth grants. There's also a cultural angle. Many organizations run frequent generic phishing tests and see diminishing returns. Training works best when it matches current attacker tactics and the company's actual tools. Show what in-thread replies look like. Show perfect branding. Show a fake Microsoft 365 login that's pixel perfect and explain why bookmarks matter. Then pair training with concrete process changes so employees aren't asked to carry the full burden through vigilance alone. An understated moment of engineering appreciation here. Attackers succeed not by building new systems, but by leaning on the reliability of existing ones. Email, identity, cloud storage, finance software. The very qualities that make these systems efficient, user familiarity, seamless integrations, consistent design, are also the qualities that can be borrowed for deception. It's helpful to clear up a few lingering misconceptions. This isn't just about careless or non-technical people. The best phish arrives wrapped in business context, from a real address, during peak workload, and asking for something that looks normal. Another common assumption is that if a message passes technical checks like SPF or DKIM, it's safe. Those checks are important, but they answer a different question. They say, this came from where it says it came from, not, this is safe to act on. And while multi-factor authentication is a critical layer, the push-based and code-based versions can still be sidestepped by social pressure or real-time interception. Upgrading to phishing-resistant factors where possible closes a significant gap. Now bring the mental model back to the surface. That forged memo in the in-tray works because it feels routine and arrives on time. Real defenses make it harder to slip memos into the tray, teach staff to double-check when the memo changes money or access, and arrange the office so a second pair of eyes looks before the stamp goes down. Link this to real systems most people use. In Microsoft 365 and Google Workspace, consider enabling alerts for inbox forwarding rules and unusual sign-ins. In HR and payroll systems, require approvals in the portal itself for any direct deposit changes. Don't allow those via email alone. In finance software, default to dual control for new or changed beneficiary details. In identity platforms, prefer modern authenticators that verify the website's domain before completing a login. In collaboration tools like Teams and Slack, treat unexpected link-sharing DMs as potentially similar to email phish and verify through established channels. What matters most is building a simple mental checklist that fits inside a hectic day. If a request is urgent, changes money or access, and arrives only via email, pause and verify through a separate path. If a login page appears after clicking an email link, close it and go to the service from a bookmark. If MFA prompts pop up for no reason, assume someone has the password and is knocking. Deny the prompts, change the password from a trusted device, and notify security. If a colleague's tone or address suddenly shifts, especially around payments, confirm identity through a known number or chat channel. There are limits to what any single layer can block, and accepting that helps shape better strategies. High-assurance environments tighten processes so unilateral, email approvals just don't happen. That reduces attacker conversion rates. At the same time, determined adversaries adapt. Lookalike domains evolve. Templates get better. Compromised accounts bypass filters. This cat-and-mouse dynamic is not a reason for despair. It's a reason to focus on durable practices. Verification through independent channels remains powerful. Process friction at money movement points pays for itself. Stronger MFA narrows the path to account takeover. One more quiet observation. Internet identity and email were built to be interoperable and open. That openness is a strength for global communication, and also an avenue for imitation. Many improvements have been added: authentication protocols, safer browsers, better defaults, but the core challenge remains human trust at the edge of routine tasks. Designing for that reality is the mature stance. So, in a nutshell, phishing works by imitating what already feels normal. The attacker doesn't need to be a master programmer. They need to be a decent observer of people and process. The defense isn't to become paranoid or to memorize red flag lists that go stale. It's to adopt a lean mental model, routine-looking request, plus time pressure, plus a change in money or access. That's a pause moment. Verify through a channel that isn't the one making the request. Prefer bookmarks over links for sign-ins. Treat unexplained MFA prompts as alarms. And for organizations, expect that some clicks will happen and build processes and technology that turn a single click into a dead end instead of a door. If this helped build a clearer picture of how phishing actually works and why it fools capable people, a like and subscribe helps make more of these.